Have you ever walked away from a conversation wishing that you had spoken more clearly and articulated your thoughts better? Maybe you've caught yourself speaking too fast when you're anxious, or completely blanking out in the middle of a meeting when you're put on the spot. Don't worry, it happens to all of us. Over the years, I've learned a few tips and tricks from speaking in front of different size audiences that I'm going to share with you today, so that you can communicate effectively and speak with confidence. Because knowing how to speak articulately can vastly improve your life, from building relationships and friendships to career progression, knowing how to negotiate yourself a promotion and a higher salary. Verbal communication really is the key to success in life. Firstly, we're going to address some of the reasons that you might be struggling to speak clearly. Some of the most common challenges many people face when they want to articulate themselves is speaking too fast because they're nervous, freezing up due to overthinking, or struggling to find the right words due to a lack of vocabulary. One of the main reasons people struggle with effective communication is due to poor language ability. Many people severely underestimate how much expanding your vocabulary and increasing your knowledge of sophisticated phrases will help you with articulating your thoughts more clearly. In particular, knowing how and when to use formal language versus informal language is going to really help you be taken more seriously in hierarchical settings, such as having a meeting with your manager, for example. One of the simplest ways that you can improve your language ability is to build your vocabulary. Learning word families is a really great way to widen your vocabulary. If you don't know what that is, it's the verb, adjective, and noun of the same word. Let's take an example of an everyday word that could be used in a corporate setting or at school, the word manage. To manage is a verb. You have the noun management and the adjective manageable. Knowledge of word families can really help you vary your sentences and also help you articulate your ideas succinctly and clearly. Another easy way to improve your language skills that actually makes a big difference to how articulate you sound is not confusing similar words. For example, many people mix up genuinely and generally, and this can really detract from the impact that you want your words to have. It's such a simple change, yet so many people overlook it. My next tip is not to memorize long vocabulary lists. This is just absolutely pointless. Take a few words and study how they're used in context. Let's take an example, the word impede. You want to study how speakers are using this word in the context of speech. An example of how impede could be used in a sentence is, anxiety often impedes effective communication. This leads back to what I was saying earlier about learning sophisticated phrases. That's going to help you learn singular words anyway without having to memorize the dictionary. If you don't know where to start with sophisticated phrases, I would recommend choosing just a few universal phrases that can be used in any setting, in a corporate job or in a meeting at school with a teacher, for example. One of the key factors in becoming a better communicator is learning the art of persuasion. Many people lack the necessary vocabulary and language to be able to acknowledge someone else's point of view, disagree with them, and tactfully explain why your idea is more suitable. If you're having a discussion with someone, for example, and you want to put across that your idea might be a more effective approach than their idea, you could use phrases such as, I see where you're coming from, and that's an interesting perspective. However, on this occasion, my idea might be a more effective approach because blah, 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 blah. And the my idea part you would replace with exactly what you're talking about, the idea that you want to put across. You want to avoid using general terms like my idea, because after a while, people switch off and they don't remember what you're actually talking about. So using key terms that relate to exactly what you're talking about rather than generalized vocabulary is going to be key to communicating effectively and articulating yourself well. Another key language skill that many people are missing is the ability to rephrase what you're trying to say when someone doesn't understand or isn't in agreement with what you say. Teachers, for example, have to do this all the time. When their students don't understand a concept, they have to rephrase it using different vocabulary, different phrases, reframing the whole idea in a different context so that their message gets across and students finally understand what they are talking about. Equally, in a meeting, if you feel like your idea has immediately been shot down by management, you might want to try to rephrase what you're saying so that you can present your idea in another way that might be more favorably seen. Another tip to help you articulate your ideas more effectively is to eliminate filler words. Too many people use like 4 or 5 times in the same sentence, even in a corporate setting. But there are also other filler words that people have a bad habit of using, things like you know at the end of every sentence, do you know what I mean, or always starting a sentence with so. You might not realize you're doing it because you're nervous and you're really trying to concentrate on what you're saying just to get through it and get it over with, but just be mindful of filler words because they can really lower the sophistication of your delivery and hinder the overall effectiveness of your communication. If you're wondering how you can stop using so many filler words when you're speaking, speaking, I would recommend recording yourself and counting how many times you say the word like or so, and then redo your speech and practice pausing where you would ordinarily use a filler word, so that you can practice articulating your thoughts without relying on the use of filler words. If you want a practical example of how you can try to reduce the number of filler words that feature in your sentences, try explaining your favorite movie plot in 30 seconds without using the words like, so, you know, and any other filler words that you might have a bad habit of saying. Generating and structuring your thoughts more clearly also helps you speak more articulately. Having a logical order to the points you're trying to make not only helps the audience follow what you're trying to say more easily, but it also helps you develop your ideas in more depth rather than just speaking in general terms. A quick, easy way to structure your ideas is to follow the framework of making your point, then adding any evidence or examples that you have to illustrate your point, giving a deeper explanation and contextualizing the argument that you're trying to make, and finally link your point to your next main idea, or if it was the last one, wrap up your presentation with a clear, succinct, impactful conclusion that's going to make the audience really think about what you've said. If you need help deciding in which order to present your points, you can either present them chronologically, going from start to finish over a time period, or if you're presenting the impact of something on specific areas of a business, talking about financial, social, environmental, and psychological aspects can also be a good way to structure your ideas if you're struggling to connect them together. Pacing is very important when you're trying to become articulate. If you rush through what you're trying to say, you're more likely to stumble over your words and therefore look less confident. Speaking too fast just increases your anxiety, makes you look unprepared, and it's also very difficult for other people to follow what you're saying. However, on the flip side, if you speak too slowly, you might lose people's attention, and worst case scenario, they stop listening to you. And speaking too slowly can also make you sound like you don't know what you're saying and that you're not sure of yourself. And if you're trying to convince management, for example, that you're the person they should pick for the promotion, speaking too slowly and seeming unsure of yourself is going to make your argument sound less convincing, and therefore you're less likely to get picked for the role. To improve your pacing, I would recommend recording yourself so you can watch yourself back, because sometimes we don't realize how fast we're speaking until we watch ourselves back and we realize that we've rushed through it, but it didn't feel like we were rushing through it at the time. To know if you're speaking at the right sort of pace, if it feels slightly slow to you, it's probably a good speed. It's just fast enough to keep people's attention, but slow enough that your points are communicated with clarity. The best way to improve your speaking ability is to study great speakers. You can watch podcasts, TED Talks, YouTube videos of famous speeches. This is going to enable you to analyze their tone, pace, how they use humor and storytelling to really embellish their points. Studying the best orators is going to really help you understand how to be more engaging and more articulate rather than being dull and general and too shallow with your communication. However, you don't need to overcomplicate your ideas. Some of the best communicators are able to simplify complex ideas, explaining them clearly so that people can easily understand and follow what they're saying. Make sure that you're exposed to different communication styles, because not everybody has the same way of speaking, and you can really play to your strengths and your unique qualities. For example, if you have a lot of anecdotes that relate to what you're saying, you can use storytelling to really enhance your points and make your ideas memorable. But obviously don't go off on too much of a tangent, because getting too sidetracked from the main points really takes away from the clarity and precision of your opinions. The best way to improve your communication skills is by practicing a little bit every single day. If you're quite shy and introverted, you could just start small, practicing talking to yourself in front of the mirror. Then when you feel more confident, you can practice speaking to people you feel comfortable with. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your friends, family. And then eventually, when you get more confident and you're making improvements in your communication ability, you can start pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and talking to a small group of people that are outside your close network. Maybe it's colleagues at work or other fellow classmates. If you're really nervous and your heart's beating fast and you've got sweaty palms, don't worry, that's extremely normal. Before answering any question or giving a speech, I would recommend taking a breath. That just helps you relax, slow down, gather your thoughts so that you can give a more confident and thought out delivery. Also, use pauses strategically. It's not meant to be a monologue where you don't breathe through the whole thing and by the end you're out of breath. Using pauses strategically when you're speaking not only helps you slow down so that you don't get stressed and stumble over your words, but it also gives the audience time to take in what you're saying so that your words have a more profound effect. I would also recommend focusing on key ideas. Don't get caught up in a script where if you don't remember it word for word, you suddenly go blank or you trip up and you can't remember what you want to say. Focus on main ideas so that you can adapt and speak more naturally on the day. Sometimes having a word for word script can make us sound really robotic, and that's going to really reduce the impact of what you're saying because you've taken away the human element. Therefore, if you want to prepare yourself some cue cards, if you're giving a big presentation or just some notes in a meeting, make sure they're bullet points, they're easy to read so that you can adapt them on the day. But the more you practice, the easier it will become and the more natural it will feel to speak in front of a bigger sized audience. If you're really introverted and you don't like speaking up in class or talking during meetings, something small to get you started in improving your communication and becoming more articulate is just to simply ask a question at the end of the meeting. This just makes your presence known, shows that you were engaged during the meeting and listened to what is being said, and now you're intelligently questioning one of the points raised so that you can have a deeper explanation or clarification on something that wasn't quite clear. If you don't want to ask a question, it could simply be just giving a positive opinion, agreeing with something someone said in a meeting. This helps you gradually build up your confidence without feeling too overwhelmed and putting you off trying to become a better communicator, because it can be really scary, especially if you are someone who's more on the introverted side. It just takes a bit more time and small baby steps. You can get there and you can be a really effective communicator even if you are someone who is shy. And if even saying anything in a group setting is making you feel really uncomfortable and too much outside your comfort zone, you could even start by just correcting tiny things like having good posture and making sure you're giving eye contact to the person who's speaking. Eye contact is also extremely important when you're the one who's communicating. If you're speaking to only 1 or 2 people, make sure you look them directly in the eye. If it's a slightly bigger group, pick 3 points around the room just above people's heads that you can look at, so you're not looking at anyone directly in the eye and being destabilized, which might throw you off what you're saying, but it enables you to be more engaging and sincere because you're maintaining eye contact with your audience while speaking. Speaking articulately and becoming an effective communicator is not a talent, it's a skill that's built over time. No one is born just being a great speaker from birth. It's a skill that's trained and improved over time through everyday practice. If you're just at the beginning of your journey of speaking confidently and clearly, aim for progress over perfection. Treat every conversation as an opportunity to practice. It's okay if you make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes. That's how you learn. That's how you improve your ability to articulate your thoughts clearly and concisely. Just remember to be kind to yourself, have patience, take it step by step, day by day, but also make sure you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone every once in a while and giving yourself the opportunity to improve your verbal communication. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has been helpful, and just remember, effective communication is a skill that anyone can develop. Let me know in the comments where you are on your journey to becoming articulate, any recent wins you've had regarding speaking in public, and any improvements that you're trying to make. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and let me know in the comments any other video ideas you would like to see.